Here's some final things to know about the Marquee tools. If you were to select an area by starting to click and drag, but then you realized you started in the wrong area, let's say I wanted to select this whole tree, I can hold down my spacebar and then drag my mouse, I'm still holding it down, and reposition the starting point. When I let go of my spacebar, I can then continue selecting. So the spacebar allows you to reposition where you want to start the selection that you made. Additionally, if I make a selection, and let's say it was a really complex type selection that I have, and I don't want to see my marching ants, but I still want to keep the area selected, I can go to View, down to Extras. Notice that Extras is checked off, and Command H is the keyboard shortcut. With it selected, or actually deselected, the area that I have is still selected. Actually, if I was to drag over it, you can see my cursor is acting like there's a selection there, but it's hidden. Command H stands for hide. So if I was to hit Command H again, I can bring back the selection that I have. I'm not deselecting it. If I was to say fill it in with a color, I can say OK, and it fills in the area that I had selected already. If I was to, however, click off to the outside of it, it will deselect it and go back into my normal Show Extras mode. So that's a quick tip for showing and hiding and deselecting certain areas. The final tip for working with the Marquee tool has to come with the rest of the tool options at the top of your tool options box. If I was to make a selection and to fill it in, you can see that the fill goes all the way to the edge of the selection that I had, and it has a very nice hard crisp edge to it. If I wanted to have a softer edge selection, I'm going to undo this and deselect it. I can change the feather of my selection. Right now it's set to 0 pixels. If I was to change it to something like 30 pixels, typing in 30, then make the same selection again, you can see my edges are rounded. When I try to fill it in now, I'll drag this off to the side, you can see the edges of it are a lot more feathered, they're a lot softer. This type of selection gives me a gradual selection rather than having a hard edge to it. And that's based on the amount of feathering that you have selected. If I was to deselect and increase the feathering even more, the results would be a lot more dramatic. So feathering an edge allows you to soften the selection that you have, and that comes in handy for various different purposes. The last thing we can do, let's set our feather back to 0, is to change the specific size of the area that we want to select. And this is under the Style. By default, we're working under Normal Style. This means when I click and drag, it'll normally select the area that I've clicked on. But the other options are if I wanted to have a specific fixed aspect ratio, proportional size. This is where I can type in a width and a height, and when I click and drag, it will constrain those proportions to be, in this case, twice as wide as it is tall. This comes in handy when trying to select an area or a certain size and you want to keep everything exactly the same. Any number that you type into here will keep it that particular proportion, in this case 8 by 1. If I wanted to quickly swap up these two numbers, that's what this button will allow us to do. Now when I click and drag, it'll be taller than it is wide. The final style you can choose is a specific fixed size. With this one, you can type in any particular size and it will only select an area within that area. So in this case it's 3 inches by 2 inches. Even if I was to drag it, all it's doing is repositioning, and it's selecting just that particular size. Again, if I wanted to swap out those, click on that and it will swap out between those two. I can type in a specific size, so let's say I needed it to be exactly 100 pixels, 100 px by 2 inches, 2 in. When I hit return, now when I click, it's actually giving me that particular size based on whatever I have typed in here as well.